Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to take that stack of sources on your desk and really distill the essential insights you need.
And, if you're in any kind of leadership position today, I mean, a startup, a family, anything really, you're always hearing this idea that you have to be the smartest voice in the room.
The most certain one. It's constant pressure.
It is, and it's exhausting. But more than that, our source material today suggests it's profoundly misplaced.
So today we're diving deep into the complete opposite of that conventional wisdom. We're talking about humility.
But not as a soft, polite virtue, not a cliche. We're talking about it as a core, strategic uh, leadership operating system.
Right. The material actually frames humility as this catalyst, something that unlocks wisdom and clarity that's frankly beyond your own natural capacity.
Exactly. It's the foundational strength you need to absorb pressure, to clarify those really complex decisions, and this is critical, to avoid the blind spots that just sink organizations.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack why the source material insists that the way up is actually down.
It's the ultimate counterintuitive path for any ambitious leader.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we have to start by tearing down some of the misconceptions,
Absolutely.
When people hear humble, they immediately think of weakness, timidity, maybe low self-esteem.
Shrinking back, yeah.
But the source is so clear. Biblical humility is not that. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. It's not a lack of ambition.
No, if it were those things, we'd just be diminishing the gifts we've been given.
Yeah.
And that's just false modesty. It's pride in another form.
So what's the real definition we're working with here?
The definition is so much more potent. Humility is strength under control.
Okay.
It's not the absence of power. It's the deliberate, disciplined management of that power. It's an intentional restraint that paradoxically leads to bolder leadership because your confidence isn't anchored in yourself.
And that hits on the central paradox right away, doesn't it? This idea that the most powerful leaders willingly lower themselves so they can be lifted higher.
It sounds like poetry, but the source treats it like a mechanism, a spiritual law.
And there's a linguistic detail here that I found fascinating. The Greek word for meekness, protos.
Yes, this is so essential. It wasn't some abstract spiritual term. It was a practical word used to describe a tamed warhorse.
And we're not talking about a pony here.
No, absolutely not. We're talking about a massive, powerful animal
Not
bred
the
for
champagne.
battle.
Bred for destruction, even.
Exactly. The warhorse keeps all of its immense strength, all of its capacity, but it surrenders its own will, its own impulse to the authority of the rider.
So it doesn't lose its power, it just submits it.
It submits it to a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And that right there is the essence of true humility in leadership. You stay strong, you stay competent, but you yield your autonomy.
Which, according to the source, is just being truthful before God. It's spiritual realism.
God is God and I am not. It's that simple.
But wait, in the hyper-competitive world we're all in, autonomy is celebrated. So why would surrendering your independence be the better strategy?
Because the moment you do that, you expand your capacity beyond your own finite energy. I mean, if you're only operating on your own terms, your vision is limited, your energy is limited.
You hit a ceiling.
You hit a ceiling. Humility is what positions you to receive more. Pride actually limits the flow of wisdom, of grace.
Which brings us to this biblical blueprint, this pattern that the sources see repeated over and over in history.
That's a spiritual law, yeah.
It goes, 1, human pride rises. 2, God intervenes. 3, humility is formed. And only then, 4, is divine empowerment released.
It's the divine development plan. And the best example, the quintessential one, has to be Moses. The source calls him the most humble man on earth.
But he didn't start that way.
Not at all. He started by relying on his own strength, his own education. He strikes down an Egyptian, thinking he's ready to lead, and he fails spectacularly. He was powerful, but he was independent.
And his reward for that self-confidence was, 40 years in the wilderness shepherding sheep?
40 years.
From a modern executive perspective, that just looks like a tragic waste of time, a huge inefficiency.
It does. That's a crucial point. But the source argues that God wasn't interested in task efficiency. He was interested in character formation.
So the wilderness wasn't wasted time, it was a classroom.
It was the classroom, where self-confidence was slowly, even painfully, replaced by God confidence. Humility is what positioned him to finally receive that authority, to carry the impossible weight of a nation.
Incredible. And then, of course, you have the ultimate model, Jesus.
The ultimate voluntary descent.
Right. In Philippians, Paul talks about kenosis, this act of self-emptying. And we
Mhm.
usually think of that as, a purely theological idea.
But the source uses it as a leadership blueprint. Jesus didn't empty himself of his divinity. He emptied himself of entitlement, of privilege.
He chose servanthood over status.
He did. And in leadership terms, that means not pulling rank. It means choosing the hard task that serves others over the path that just protects your own image. That's the DNA of real greatness.
Okay, so if humility is the key, let's talk about the obstacle, pride. The source calls it the silent saboteur.
And it's rooted in that illusion of autonomy, isn't it? The subtle belief that after you get a few wins, you're suddenly self-sufficient.
And the consequences are real. The warning from James is it's stark. God resists the proud.
And that word resist in the Greek, it means to set yourself in battle formation against something. So when pride shows up, you are literally activating resistance, not just from God, but from reality. Your judgment gets clouded.
Your vision becomes tunnel vision.
Exactly. But if pride activates resistance, humility activates grace. And grace here isn't just niceness, it's divine enabling power.
How does that actually show up? I mean, for a leader in their day-to-day.
It shows up as sustainable capacity. It's the ability to stay calm when everyone else is panicking. It's clarity of thought under extreme pressure. The proud leader is running on ego and adrenaline, and it burns out.
Okay, let's get practical. Let's move this into the strategy room. The source says that success is actually a more dangerous test than failure,
It absolutely is.
which feels so counterintuitive.
It is, but think about it. Failure often drives us back to dependency. It reminds us we're not enough on our own.
Sure.
Success, though, it tempts us into this delusion that we're the sole authors of our achievement. And humility is the only posture strong enough to hold that blessing without losing sight of the source.
So how does a leader apply this proactively? The source gives us this brilliant tool, the humility lens for decision-making.
Yeah, this is fantastic. It turns decision-making from just impulse into real discernment.
So let's walk through the questions. The first one cuts right to the core. Am I relying primarily on God's guidance or my own reasoning?
It's a practical deceleration mechanism. It forces you to just stop, create some space, and ask, where is this decision really coming from?
From my own finite mind or from somewhere else. The second question is about blind spots. Have I sought wise counsel, especially dissenting counsel?
This is huge. Proverbs says, plans fail without counsel. Humble leaders actively look for people who disagree with them. The proud leader just surrounds themselves with clones.
They build an echo chamber.
An expensive echo chamber. Groupthink is costly.
And the third question, which I think is the hardest for any high achiever. Am I willing to be corrected, or am I just protecting my ego?
Oof, yeah. That hits the sunk cost fallacy hard, doesn't it? Think of a leader who refuses to sunset a failing project just because they championed it.
It's ruinous.
It's ruinous. But the humble leader sees correction as a gift, a free data point that lets them course correct faster.
And the final question is a motive check. Am I protecting myself, or am I serving others?
It forces you to choose the long-term health of the organization over your short-term image.
Which is why this commitment to feedback is such a clear strategic advantage. It makes you more resilient.
Dramatically sharpens judgment.
Okay, so section 4, cultivating humility. This isn't a passive virtue, is it? The source says it requires discipline, intentional action.
It's proactive. A major way you practice it is through delegation and deference, elevating other people.
And delegation here isn't just dumping tasks on someone.
No, it's strategic empowerment. It's discipleship. The leader who refuses to delegate is subtly saying, my way is the only right way.
But there's a real fear there, isn't there? The fear of losing control. What if they do it poorly, or worse, what if they outshine you?
And the humble leader overcomes that by understanding that true control is internal. It's an anchored confidence. Your influence only multiplies when you release it.
If you try to contain it, you limit it.
Exactly. You have to be a conduit, not a container.
So what are some of these intentional habits? The source talks about something called a credit shift.
The credit shift is simple but revolutionary. You publicly defer credit. You intentionally celebrate someone else's success, especially when you might have deserved a piece of that credit. It's a discipline of the tongue that breaks that self-focus.
And then there's accountability. For a CEO, who holds them accountable?
Precisely. Accountability is the armor for a leader's soul. It protects against delusion. It could be a peer board, an outside coach, anything that intentionally builds a fence around your ego.
Which feeds into this last point. Practicing a quiet confidence rooted in God. The source says this makes you free to be overlooked without collapsing.
And that is so radical in our culture, which is all about personal branding and visibility.
Right. Isn't being overlooked professional suicide?
Well, visibility is the currency of the world, but durability is the currency of God's kingdom. Quiet confidence means your worth is defined internally by your anchor, not by the external applause.
So you can be passed over for the award and your confidence stays intact.
It stays intact. This whole process is about surrender, submission, and a softening toward others. It's what positions your heart to receive that divine enabling power.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We started by challenging that idea that you need to be the smartest, loudest voice in the room.
And this deep dive really confirms it. Humility isn't some soft virtue for a clock on the wall. It's the spiritual infrastructure that everything else, wisdom, courage, integrity, rests on.
I like that, spiritual infrastructure.
Think of it like this. Pride insulates. It keeps truth and power out. But humility is like spiritual conductivity. It's the doorway for wisdom and divine power to flow into your life and into your organization.
In this really noisy, visibility-obsessed culture, the sources are clear. True influence doesn't come from grasping for power. It comes from strategically surrendering it.
So let me leave you with this final thought, a question drawn right from the source material.
Please.
What doors might finally open in your career, your project, or your personal growth simply because you released the pressure to prove something?
Humility is the forgotten strength that changes everything. It is the path of Christ, and it's the doorway to a divine invitation.
An invitation to be trusted with more clarity, more responsibility. It's the beginning of true, lasting spiritual greatness.